Welcome into the Irish NFL show, another week of NFL action brought to you by our friends over at Pundit Arena. Check them over at Pundit Arena on Facebook and Twitter. You can also check their website out as well, folks. We are in for another week of NFL action with one big news story in the last few hours. On Saturday evening has been the firing of Detroit Lions head coach Matt Patricia and GM Bob Quinn. Now, lads, welcome in for a start. How are you all getting on? Good?
Good.
Good, mate? Excellent. I can see Brian looks very excited ahead of that Giants game this week. Colin, what's your thoughts on this current situation in Detroit with Patricia being sacked?
Yeah, which has been coming. I mean, I think Mark and I talked about it. That would the team quit on him? And yes, they did. They clearly quit on him. They quit on him really in his first season. It went wrong from the off. He tried to bring the Patriot way in without ever trying to win the players around, without building trust, and it just went horribly. There's a story told that after that first season, he apparently was the extra training. He used to swear at people. He called people out publicly in meetings. And on the day of the last meeting for the season, the players, to begin the day, had mimosas before the team meeting because they were that delighted that they wouldn't see him until OTAs. That tells you about Matt Patricia's reign in Detroit. It hasn't worked. Matt Prater said, and he was trying to be nice. This is a few weeks ago, but he said it felt very like Josh McDaniels in Denver. The Belichick coaching tree, they try to bring in what Belichick has, but without, it feels a little bit like the guys who've been under Alex Ferguson, without the magic of the head coach, and just try to implement the measures, and it's no good. So trying to be tough, trying to call out guys to make a point, unless you have buy-in, unless you know how to handle players, like certain players do require you to call them out. Roy Keane would have been like that. Brady had no problem with being called out. He would respond to it, but not everyone responds that way. And Patricia, by all accounts, he did try in his second season to maybe build some bridges, but he never won the players around. He kept referring back to the Patriot way. He kept referring to things weren't good when he arrived and he had done all this work. And for people who'd been around the organization, they didn't feel that was the case. They were coming off a 9-win season when he was appointed. They felt that they were looking to build on that, but they didn't think things had been awful. So I think what's interesting is you have seen Bill O'Brien go, another one of the Belichick coaching tree. So I imagine teams will be taking a long and hard look. Flores is obviously doing better in Miami, though. After last week in Denver, it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back this week. They're lucky in the game they have, but we are now looking at a situation where Lions, Falcons, and Texans all have head coach GM openings. Interesting that we're at that point in as we enter week 12 in the 2020 season.
Brian, obviously Bob Quinn gone as well. A big moment for the Lions and in their franchise, and how they go forward from here.
Yeah, it's very much a clean house situation. And interesting enough, some of the reports and conversations that have come out this evening is that people are genuinely surprised that he is gone, and they haven't waited till the end of the season. But going to refer back to Carolina last year when a lot of people were surprised that Riverboat Ron got sacked, and I think it's a similar situation. I think the owners have realised they need to get a jump start now on what's available and start doing proper kind of reviewing process in terms of where they want to go, and going to start identifying head coaches. Was them particular coaches might be still in jobs towards the end of the season. There's new rules in place now come playoff time that you can interview coaches, even if they're still with a team in the playoffs. So I think now they're probably looking very quickly to see who they're after. And also bear in mind now they have to look for a GM as well. So it's not just a case of a head coach. Head coach search for a GM there. You're looking for a GM first and foremost before you even go after your head coach. And then obviously you have to make sure that that head coach works with that GM. So there's a lot of work there to be done. And to Colin's point, the Belichick way only seems to work if you have your players bought into it, and the team, in terms of the record, is improving season to season. But where you have 2 seasons and they've done nothing, it's hard for players to continuously buy into it. So no surprise. Touched on it the other day. It was bound to happen, and I suppose the surprise is it didn't happen straight after the game on Thursday.
Mark, what was your opinion of that game on Thursday? And obviously, a lot of talk now, both on Saturday evening and today, about the potential future of Matt Stafford, depending on who comes in as GM and head coach.
Yeah, I mean, look, the game on Thursday was a bit bizarre. It was great. It was a great, entertaining game. Like, I was probably a bit, down on the games when we recorded the TNF Club, our Thanksgiving preview show. But like, I mean, there were some weird and wonderful things. Like 30 offensive snaps, there were 4 turnovers between the two teams. The problem for Detroit, they were the ones committing more, including a beautiful pick 6 straight to JJ by Matt Stafford. Look, Matt Stafford's future is going to be fascinating to see. Like, they have been embedded with him. He's obviously a vast percentage of the salary cap. He is also approaching towards the end of his career. Usually, when Detroit Lions have a decent player, he tends to retire in his prime. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson. Matt Stafford, of course, has never hit the heights of those players, but he's a perfectly good functioning quarterback. When he was teamed up with Jim Bob Cooter there, offensive coordinator, it kind of seemed like he was getting some mojo going and something momentum was building. But they just have gone backwards, and Stafford's gone backwards under Patricia. I mean, remember Patricia replaced the personality bypass that is Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell at least had 3 winning seasons out of his last 4 seasons in Detroit. Patricia's gone 13, 29, and 1. He's gone fourth in division, and fired. Now, don't get me wrong. The man knows more about football. No, sorry, the man's forgotten more about football than I will ever know. We know he's a rocket scientist. We know this because every bloody TV analyst repeats it every time they're showing a game with him. But it's been obvious for far too long that both him and Quinn have to go. Bear in mind, this is the first occasion where it's not just, or maybe Falcons a little bit as well, but it's not just the head coach. It's the head coach and the GM trying to implement the Patriot way. They know nothing else. Quinn was with the Pats from 2000 to 2015. Patricia was Amherst, I think it was, in college, and then he was with the Patriots going through the ranks. So whereas Flores and I think to a lesser extent Joe Judge in the Giants are succeeding, is they're trying to be their own men. They're not trying to be Bill Belichick replacements and clones, and that's where Crennel, where Bill O'Brien, where all these guys tend to fall down. And I love actually that Colin brings up Ferguson, because actually, if you think about it, Ferguson and Belichick, when they started, almost started to fail. Like, Ferguson was almost going to get fired at Man United until that infamous, I'm an Arsenal fan, so the infamous FA Cup final where they beat, they won the replay. That's the challenge, though. They failed. They got knocked down. They built themselves up. They figured it out themselves. Belichick, everyone knows about the Browns time, for example. So, these guys, when they just try to be a copy of someone else, it's just not good enough. And look, I'm a Pats fan. I love Matt Patricia for his Goodell clown T-shirts. He was defensive coordinator for 2 Super Bowl wins. I've much to be thankful for. So, for now, all I can say in the immortal words of the Spice Girls is goodbye, my friend. We'll see him another day.
Dear Lord, I'm looking forward to the S Club 7 quote next in a second. Let's be quite frank, lads. A team that obviously has connections to the Ford family and connections to the Ford Motor Company, industrial genius, never mind in America and in the rest of the world. The Detroit Lions are probably one of the most underachieving teams in all of sports, never mind American football. And I applaud the organization for doing what they've done. It is refreshing as a fan of another team that's struggling to see the team pull the plug, admit that they've messed up, and just pull the plug and start again, even if they have some decent players there. I think it's fantastic. Sitting 13, 29, and 1 after nearly 3 consecutive losing seasons. And for me, while I very quickly, swiftly move on here, it's beautiful to see another person that's left the Patriots and just messed up. It's all Bill Belichick. It's nobody else. Maybe like a wee bit of Tom Brady, but that's all it is. And but Matt Patricia looked like a guy that was just ready to go home, get turkey from the fridge, and put on Netflix on Thursday night. I mean, I actually felt like I was wasting my time at one point in the third quarter watching the game. So I put on I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. That's the whole point it got to on Thursday night. But we're not on Thursday night anymore. We're on Sunday. And today's games are there are a few interesting games. There are a few games I think we'll go very swiftly on from very quickly. Not looking at you, Brian, there at all. But the first game that we're going to look at is the Las Vegas Raiders, who are playing the Atlanta Falcons. Raiders 6-4, Falcons 3-7. Obviously, a lot of managerial movements there in the Falcons this year as well. Colin, starting with you, man. Who have you got for this game today?
John Gruden was very complimentary about the Falcons in the run up this week. I think he's probably trying to ensure that it's not a trap game for his team. The Raiders played very well against the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes did Patrick Mahomes thing to win it. But the Raiders have been very impressive on offense. Derek Carr is having a career year. I think that they will have enough here. Matt Ryan took 8 sacks last week. He'll probably be relieved to this week because the Raiders are 31st in terms of getting to the QB. But I think with Julio Jones questionable, I just don't see the Falcons having enough here. I think that the Raiders are good on both sides of the ball, which hurts to say as a Broncos fan, but they're a decent team, and I expect them to move to 7-4.
Yeah, and just to Colin's point, Todd Gurley's also been ruled out of the game. So not only now you're missing their main running back, who's done reasonably well there since he's moved over from the LA Rams. You've also got, you said, Jones questionable. The Raiders have been very impressive this year. Mark was quite high in them at the start of the season. I didn't see it, but you can see gradually Gruden is building something there. They're 4-1 on the road as well. Actually, a better road record than they have at home. So seem to stand up on games when they go away from home. And just, Derek Carr, last year there was numerous conversations about Gruden really thought he was the quarterback for the Raiders, but he's definitely proven himself this year. He's long term, he is the answer. Top 3 in completions for the season alongside Wilson and Breeze, which is no mean feat. So yeah, I agree with Colin. I think the Falcons just can't be trusted, and I think the Raiders will go in there and win, knowing that they really have to win in order to try keep in the running for that wild card place. So Raiders, yeah. Mark's in shock, is he?
Well, no, what Mark's thinking of is Chucky, unfortunately, is so egotistical. I think that when S Club 7 sang "Bring It All Back to You," he thinks they were singing to him. But this game isn't about S Club 7. This game is actually about the Spice Girls again, because if you want to be in the playoffs, you got to beat teams like these. And that's the reality for the Raiders. They are in a dogfight now. They are keeping the Ravens out of the playoffs. Whereas it stands today, the Ravens are sitting in 8th place. They don't even make that 7th extra wildcard slot. So they need to keep the pressure on. Of course, a great game against the Chiefs, but they still lost. They still didn't add to the win column. That's still going to be a problem for them come towards the end of the season because, of course, it's another conference loss. So it's impactful on tiebreakers. But this game, they should beat the Falcons comfortably. Henry Ruggs and Nelson Aguilar should be having mind games, fun games, running rings around games with that diabolical pass defense of the Falcons. If I had to pick one flaw of the Raiders in this game that worries me a little, they've only got 11 sacks on the whole season. That's the second worst in the entire NFL. And Brian just alluded to it, Todd Gurley's out and everything. So Matt Ryan's going to throw it. They need to generate some pressure there because he can sling it, and maybe Jones is out, but obviously Calvin Ridley is still a beast. So that would be the only thing to worry about. But for me, the Raiders should walk this game and need to walk this game.
And you're mentioning the Ravens there, like one of the things that we weren't going to talk about because we'll talk about it on the Monday show was the Ravens, and obviously their game has been moved to Tuesday as it stands. This is pre-recorded. Breaking news in the last few minutes, lads: the Ravens have added at least 6 players onto the COVID-19 reserve list. It looks highly likely that game might not happen on Tuesday. It remains to be seen. But let's stick with this game today, and I'm really interested by your picks, gentlemen. Really interested. And this Raiders team put up 31 points against Kansas City last week, against the Dark Lord, against Voldemort, Patrick Mahomes. Let's be quite frank here. Devontae Booker looks reborn in I was going to say Oakland, in Vegas, and it kills me to watch. You've got Jason Witten, who was on the TV last year or the year before. Derek Carr is starting to come into himself now. I think this team is really underrated, and it kills me to say it. I'm not even going to talk about the Falcons because there's no point. They've got that guy Younghoe Koo.
Yeah,
he might score 3 or 4 field goals. My lock of the week, first game in, lock of the week is the Las Vegas Raiders. Easy, printing money, all set to go 4-0. So nobody thinks the Falcons here can win. No, just before we move on, nobody.
Nope.
No.
Lock of the week, Raiders. Raiders -7. But I'm going to say Raiders. Right. The 3-7 Los Angeles Chargers at the 7-3 Buffalo Bills. Gentlemen, starting with you, Colin. Is there any other chance of the Chargers even winning this? Seriously?
There is, because Justin Herbert is offensive rookie of the year. He's a phenomenal player. We're yet to see a weakness. He has overcome, like to win last week. He had to beat everything. They did everything they could to lose that game, including like giving himself that haircut. I think he gave it to himself anyway, because I don't think anyone would do that to your head. And yet he came up trumps. He's fantastic. He's thrown 25 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions for a rookie QB who he's taken to the league and taken it by storm. So when you have Herbert, and I expect that he'll go over 300 yards again today, because the Bills, they've been torched in the last couple of games. I think almost 900 yards, 66 points. So they're in with a chance. That said, I do think the Bills are likely winners. They're coming off a bye. They've won the last 5 coming off a bye. So they've also been stewing on that last second loss to the Cardinals. To me, they'll want to put on a performance. Josh Allen will want to put on a performance at home. You also, as always, the Chargers have more injuries on defense. I think I expect the Bills to win this, but I expect it to be high scoring.
Yeah, Colin kind of stole me thunder there. I was going to make the point that they've had 2 weeks to stew and, get over that Hail Murray, as Mark liked to call it, and come up against the Chargers team, who on defense have actually given up the most yards to running backs in the league 3 of the last 4 games. And the Bills, here's their running game this year: Singletary, Zach Moss, the rookie. You've obviously got Josh Allen, quarterback. He's a wild card for running. So, yes, I think Bills would have too much for him. Yeah, Herbert's a great story this season. The haircut, well, maybe some of his powers are gone. But and interesting enough, the top 2 wide receivers in the league going against each other this season. Stephon Diggs against Keenan Allen. You wouldn't have thought those 2 would be the top 2, but 2 great wide receivers. But no, I think the Bills will march on. They're going to win the division, and I think they'll take care of the Chargers. I don't think it's going to win those games. The Chargers are hanging in with 1 drive to go.
Guys, it's sometimes I listen to some great music, a bit of jazz, bit of Coltrane and Cole Porter, sometimes a bit of classical music, Mozart, Chopin, Tchaikovsky. This week I've been listening to far too many bad 90s pop girl group tunes. So for this game, it's so easy to go with Bills, Bills, Bills by Destiny's Child. But in fairness, what the Bills have to say is they have to channel some Bewitched. And they have to say, when it came to 2 weeks ago, say la vie. Just let it go, guys. I'm actually with Colin. I think the Chargers do have a chance in this game. With Herbert tossing the ball around, they're actually 3rd in total offense in the NFL. And the Bills' D, which has been their calling card for the last couple of years, just hasn't been there this season. They've had a couple of games. I think they've had 4 games against top 5 offenses. They're only 2-2 in those games, and they've given up a ridiculous amount of yards and points. I think it's over 450 yards and 31 points per game in those particular games. They've all pro D backs who are not playing like all pro backs this season. However, all that being said, Josh Allen proved against the Seahawks he can carve up the bad defenses, and the reclamation project of Josh Allen continues. Whilst Joey Bosa is back, the Chargers have got too many injuries. And whilst I can make a valid case for the Chargers, I still think the Bills will squeak it, but it's going to be a lot closer. It'll be a big shootout, but there's going to be a field goal in this in my mind.
No, it's not.
No.
No chance. It'll be 10 or 14 points. The Bills have had a week off. They're sitting up pretty. They've had their Thanksgiving dinner. They haven't got COVID, unlike half the teams. They're sitting easy. They're loving it. Bills by 14. 21 maybe. Yeah, Justin Herbert's a good player. Potentially a great player. But no.
Tables in Buffalo won't be safe ever again.
Buffalo's going to the Super Bowl, boys. We've already had this discussion. They're about to go 8-3. Yeah, but I know as a Patriots fan, you can't take that. And look, as a Broncos fan, it's hard for me to say that the Raiders are a good team. And it's hard for me to look at Mahomes. It is. But I have to just, I have to accept it. And in this situation here, unfortunately, the Bills are going to win by about 14, 21 points. Cole Beasley, I think, will have a nice game. So if you do enjoy a little flutter, get on Cole Beasley. Now, talking about flutters and talking about good times, we'll be back to the good times in a minute, but unfortunately today, the New York Giants are playing the Cincinnati Bengals in what promises to be, well, I don't know. Brian, I mean, before we even get Colum's opinion, a big game for the Giants, who could potentially, am I right in saying they could be tied for joint first in the NFC East if they win and the results go in their favor?
If they take care of business, which you would expect they will against a third string quarterback, and the Eagles the Seahawks take care of the Eagles on Monday night, the Giants will be top of the division. Yeah.
Dear
so
Lord.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise to see that they're. Yeah, there you go. Good story. Biggest game of the weekend, yeah. Obviously, the Bengals changed up on the quarterback they were. They brought in Finley last week when Burrow got injured, but they've moved to an old flame of yours, Brandon Allen, former Bronco quarterback. He's going to play. But still is an interesting game from my point of view. Was the Bengals are playing with a third-string quarterback and Mixon is out. They've still got some good players on offense. T. Higgins, the rookie this year, has done really well. AJ Green on his day. Tyler Boyd. But the Giants have to win this game. We've only won games against teams in the division. We have to break the duck. And what a game, what an opportunity to go top of the division. So, yeah, I'm very confident that we'll pull this one out of the bag, yeah.
Colin, will the Giants go top of the division this weekend?
Well, I've seen Brandon Allen in the flesh, and he's just not impressive. He's not. He's a trier. He's a trier. But he's not.
Hold on. You flew all the way to America and watched Brandon Allen.
I did. I saw him and the Broncos blow a 20-point halftime lead against the Vikings around this time last year. He's just. He won't lead them to victory. I mean, the Giants have something to play for now, and they're going for their first 3-game winning streak since 2016. I think they finally get it. So the Giants move to 4-7.
Brian, Mark, can I at least speculate that you're going to say, "Oops, I did it again" here, or what's the?
No. What I'm thinking is that the Giants have channeled Little Mix and they've cast some black magic over the Bengals in this regard. I mean, a franchise quarterback, playing very, very well. Not maybe at the heights of Justin Herbert, I'll say, but coming along very nicely. Going down for the season the week before they happen to play the New York Giants. I think some nefarious witches' coven, probably somewhere in East Rutherford, had a hand in that. Look, Column's bang on. The first potential 3-game winning streak since 2016. They're the only team not to have a 3-game winning streak in the last 4 seasons. I mean, the only team, like the Lions, the Jags, the Browns, every team full of ineptitude has had a 3-game winning streak more recently than the New York Giants. But it's not just about the badness of Brandon Allen. It's actually also about the badness of the Bengals' offensive line. 36 sacks allowed. The only team worse is the aforementioned Philadelphia Eagles, and that's going to be the biggest trouble for them. The Giants' defense is solid. They're there to play, and that's going to be more than enough to get them over the line. That they are locked in as far as I'm concerned. And Brian O'Leary is just saying nice things about the Bengals because he doesn't want to get too overconfident.
Well,
Mark, do you know what we'll have next week after a 3-win run? We'll have 4
We'll lose
wins.
miserably, no?
Next week? No, we're only playing the Seahawks. We'll win that game.
well, I'm about to bring you all the way back down to earth, gentlemen.
God.
If Brandon Allen didn't play in Denver and didn't play awfully in front of Colin, I'd be sitting here going, the Giants win us by 20. Let's be quite frank. Brandon Allen is not donning a Broncos uniform today. He's donning a Bengals one. For that reason, and for the fact I think the Giants are a complete disaster and the game's in Cincinnati, and I have nothing to lose by saying this because I might as well have a bit of crack and say this. I'll put some money on it as well for a laugh. I am going to take the Bengals this week just for the sheer crack of it. I'll say that Tyler Boyd has a touchdown reception, but I think it will come down to Randy Bullock in the fourth quarter, a 58-yard field goal winner. It'll be like 10-7 or something like that. It won't be a classic, but I think the Bengals will win. Yeah, there you go.
Well, hold on there, Mick. Let's see.
Do you know how much you're going to get back?
What odds
Probably a
will
lot.
Do you know how much you'll get back for your investment, Michael?
About $1,000.
Did I tell you how much you're going to get back? No, 0.
You're a very confident man there, Brian. Like, you're playing the Bengals, but you've got Daniel Jones, of course. So let's wait and let's see. Now, I just come from the same guy that actually might start Daniel Jones today in fantasy. So let's see what happens. But I don't know. I've got a feeling, man. I've got a feeling. I don't know what it is. I just have a feeling that they might just. They just might. I don't know. I just get these feelings and just publicly saying it now on an open forum. Sorry, yeah. So that's my opinion. Obviously, we're all entitled to that. So good luck to both teams. A really good game. I think this game's on Sky today. Titans Colts 7-3. Really good game. Like seriously, like the standout game apart from Tampa, Kansas City. Gentlemen, Colin, what do you reckon?
Yeah, it should be an interesting battle. I think Derrick Henry has a pretty good record against the Colts. Put up 100 yards in the last 2 outings. And DeForest Buckner is out for the Colts, which is a big loss for them. But the Titans defense is struggling. Their O-line is struggling. They've lost Brown, their linebacker, probably for the season. And I have gone against the Colts. I really didn't believe that they were the real deal, but they have shown me over the last few weeks. I'm not going to go against them for a third time. I think the Colts will win this to move to 8-3, but it'll be tough, certainly, but I think they have enough. They really showed against the Packers, that they have the mental fortitude to overcome setbacks. So I think they will do enough here.
Yeah, I'll tell you what is impressive. That Colts offensive line, they were really good last year, and they're actually they're at a run right now based on the sacks this season that they'll only give up 15 for the season. So any quarterback who's got an offensive line like that in front of them will obviously do well, despite our concerns over Philip Rivers and whether he's good enough to take them to the playoffs. I went for them last week because I felt that he had Rivers' number, but the Titans, to me, still have too much. I know the Colts beat them a few weeks ago, but that game was very equal coming into the third quarter, and that block punt that was returned for a touchdown kind of turned the game on its head. And the Titans won there last year, and I'd be more confident in them winning that game. And you look at the stats between the two quarterbacks, they're literally on par for the whole season. So if you're asking which quarterback I think can take a team down the field to win a game, I'd rather go for Tannehill than go for Rivers. So I'm going to pick the Titans.
Yeah, guys. I mean, look, I think that to me, actually, this is the game of the week. This is actually the one that intrigues me the most, and I think is probably the most, maybe not the most exciting in terms of pure adrenaline and offensive firepower. That's definitely the Bucks versus the Chiefs. But like the All Saints, I know where it's at, and for me, it's this game. And two things you guys called out both of them. The Indy defense. Look what they did last week in the second half against Green Bay. They tightened up completely. 5 possessions, only allowed a field goal, then got the key fumble in overtime, forced fumble in overtime to set up the win. That's what you're expecting. DeForest Buckner is going to be a big loss. But both these teams have bounced back from a bit of adversity. The Colts had a bad loss against the Ravens, and they bounced back to obliterate the Titans, in fairness. Second half performance again, far superior, 34-17, big win against Green Bay. The Titans were on a bit of a slump. They lost 3 of 4, including one to the Bengals. And then last week came back with a big win for them, which they really needed against the Ravens. Ryan Kelly, the center for the Colts, is out. That might impact the efficiency of that offensive line. I'm just edging towards the Titans, I have to admit. Even though all the nice things are said about the Colts, even though how much I respect their defense, I just think big bad Derrick Henry is going to pull one of these games out and is going to run.
He'll run. I'll be delighted. I'm a fan of the team, and that's all the Titans will do tomorrow tonight. I agree with Brian. I think this offensive line for the Colts is very underrated. Probably top 3 in the league. I don't want to go that far, but it's really, really good. Philip Rivers will get the job done against the Titans today. But that rookie running back, Jonathan Taylor, is something else, lads. All aboard the Reich bus in Indy. I am going with Indy winning this by 3 to 7 points. Have you seen the kicker's name? Rodrigo Blankenship. That's almost as good as Randy Bullock. So, yeah, going with a Colts win. It's incredible to think the Titans and the Colts are both 7-3. Two franchises that a few years ago were not in the depths, but they've really shown if they work hard, they can get there. So other teams like the Broncos or the Lions should maybe take notice. Do we have
quick one for you? Just on. Yeah, sorry, just a quick one for you. Taylor's actually out again. He's gone on the COVID list.
Oh.
Another one. Yeah, so he's not.
Well, if Taylor's out, you've got Hines. Hines had 2 touchdowns last week, didn't he? Or in their last game, sorry. So.
Yeah.
Thank you for the heads up, though. I'm still going to go with the Colts. Lads, do we have to talk about the Browns and the Jaguars? I mean, the Browns are about to go 8-3.
Well, the story though in terms of the Jags is James Robinson. The kid's on course for a 1,200 yard season. It was an undrafted free agent. I mean, that's ridiculous. He right now looks like he could be Dominic Rhodes's record for the Colts. We were impressed, understandably, and we are, by Philip Lindsay. We know how important and how good he is for the Broncos. But Robinson is doing it with a Jaguars team that is infinitely worse than anything that the Broncos had. I can't see the Jags winning, but I don't think you can gloss over what he's achieving down there with the mess that they have. But yeah, the Browns are going to win this, and it'll be I think their best start since '94.
Yeah, they're very much winning on the strength of that run game. We touched on it last week. Chubb and Hunt, between the both of them, they've had over 100 yards each. And, to have one running back doing that all season and win 2. And it's kind of painting over the cracks to a certain extent of how Baker Mayfield is playing. He hasn't thrown a touchdown in the last 3 games, but yet they're still winning games. And winning games against teams they really should be beating. Where when they come into the playoff in a wild card, the likelihood is they'll play some team that will manage to take care of them. And the defense is a bit up and down so far. Miles Garrett was out last week. Not sure if he's going to play this week. But again, it's the Jags, and the Jags are in the sweepstakes for Lawrence, and they want to continue that way. And Michael has jumped into a swimming pool.
Jumped into the pool in Jacksonville. Does
that mean he's going to pick them?
Clearly not. Clearly
Absolutely not. I was on mute while I was changing that because I had to turn the microphone off. But absolutely not. I mean, Mark, can we just get on with this? We're both picking the Browns, yeah?
Well,
Can we
look,
just go on it?
yeah, we are. But I mean, the Browns can do brownie things, and very messy brownie things in their pants sometimes. And the song that goes through my head for this one is actually "Hold On" by Wilson Phillips. Hold on for one more day. Now that's a band. They're the daughters of the Beach Boys and the Mamas and the Papas. So there's your pop quiz trivia for you for the day. But actually, I'll give you a Super Bowl trivia question, gentlemen, which I hope you'll all know. There are only 4 teams that have never made a Super Bowl in the 53 years history of the Super Bowl era. Any ideas?
The Jaguars,
Jags is one.
Jags is one.
the Lions,
Browns.
Lions, Browns, and the last one, the Houston Texans. So we had on Thanksgiving evening the Texans versus the Lions, and now we have in a scheduling quirk the other 2 teams who have never made a Super Bowl, the Browns and the Jags. I think we're all safe in saying the Texans and Lions aren't changing that this season. Neither are the Jags. But for the Browns, look, Alexander Dumas once said, all human wisdom is contained in these 2 words, wait and hope. And the Browns have some hope. It's if you think of Dumas's most famous work though, the Three Musketeers, you've got Chubb, you've got Landry, you've got Hunt. So you've got Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. They need their D'Artagnan to help stop Cardinal Richelieu and actually save the king. And and their D'Artagnan is very clear. It's Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, if they are going to do anything beyond make the playoffs, maybe win a wild card, or maybe look a bit interesting in it, he needs to step up and start performing because he hasn't been. So Browns to win, but can D'Artagnan come to the rescue?
How do I follow that up? Come on, come on, D'Artagnan. I mean, come on. The Browns are going to win this game. I mean,
What about D'Artagnan?
D'Artagnan. The Browns will win us by about 30 points. The Jaguars are a joke. They shouldn't be moved to London. They should move to a city in America that deserves a team. Hell, take them out of the league completely. The complete joke, a complete waste of time, waste of a franchise. London doesn't deserve them, and that's saying a lot. The Panthers at the Vikings. The 4-6 Minnesota Vikings. What happened to this Vikings team, boys?
They can't play defense. That's what happened to them, which traditionally such a strong point, and under Zimmer would ordinarily be the area you'd really expect them to excel at. But the pass defense is just terrible, and I imagine. It looks like Teddy B will be back, though obviously they won without him. But they won again. The Panthers won against the Lions team that were done. They quit. They didn't want to play for their coach anymore. I think it'll be much tougher against the Vikings. Look, the Vikings have to go back to relying on Dalvin Cook. Last week they somehow lost to the Cowboys. We saw what the Cowboys are like on Thursday, a game of incredible catches. They need Dalvin Cook to have a big game, and then find Thielen, find Justin Jefferson. I think the Vikings will have enough, but I do think you'll see plenty of yards in this, no matter who starts at QB for the Panthers.
Yeah, when we did that discussion last week on the Cowboys-Vikings game, the only piece I suggested how the Cowboys would win was to exploit that weak secondary. They'd given up 18 touchdowns even before that game last weekend. And they did exactly that. And you look at the Panthers offense with Bridgewater coming back, who may have a point to prove, was he finished up in Minnesota predominantly because of that serious injury. You still might want to go back and put one over on his whole team. And then you look at the wide receivers. Robbie Anderson, who came in from the Jets, has had a good season. They've got Moore, who's having a really good season. And can you trust the Vikings? But I trust Dalvin Cook. I don't trust Kirk Cousins. And as long as you've got Cook in your team, you've always got half a chance. They're at home, and there's no up and down. You just don't know with them. So the likelihood is they'll probably rebound this week and win. So I'll go with the Vikings, but I wouldn't be Duke haven't thrown any money on it.
Look, on this one, I'm feeling the Sugar Babes. A freak like me. Both teams have a freak. It just happens to be the case that the Panthers one is injured and the unlikely to play. C-Mac, although he's got a chance, but it's unlikely to play. The Vikings one, Cook, he's going to play. Although I had seen that Adam Thielen had gone onto the COVID list briefly, so that's going to be a concern for the Vikings. But their freak is fit. It's as simple as that. Both teams are porous on defense. They're both giving up nearly 50% of their drives, of opposing drives, are ending in points. So it's clear that neither of them can really defend. The Vikings, I was bigging them up this season. I have to admit, I actually thought they had a really good chance of usurping the Packers and being the force in the NFC North, certainly at the start of the season. They cost me a lot of money this year, so I really don't like them. They're almost, with the big build-up, they're almost as much of a disappointment as Ireland is at the Rugby World Cup every time it comes around. That's how bad it is. But actually, we've got to come to the Cowboys at some point, gents. When we'll come later on, but we need to come back to the Cowboys. But for me, the Vikings should have enough, but somehow I always fear they're going to let me down. I'll go Vikes, but don't feel good about it.
You're talking about the obviously like about the Cowboys and stuff, and I know we're not going to talk about the Cowboys today because they're not playing. We don't deserve to talk about the Cowboys, but can we at least acknowledge the whole Skip Bayless situation going on there?
What is he doing?
That's in general or just not video?
Well, just in general, possibly, yeah.
I see Christian McCaffrey's not playing. I see Christian McCaffrey, but the fact of the matter is, this Vikings team lost to the Dallas Cowboys last weekend. That's all I need to know for putting any money or for watching this game. And I couldn't believe when they got beat by the Cowboys last weekend. In fact, I was mortified that they got beat by the Cowboys last weekend. And the reality is, this team has got one player, and his name is Dalvin Aloysius Cook. The reality is, for the Panthers, they've got guys like DJ Moore, who's playing really good, really, really good at the minute. Teddy's okay. He's solid. But I genuinely think that the Panthers will win this game. I really do. The Vikings are a bit like for me as a Broncos fan. I don't mean to talk about Broncos too much, but as a Broncos fan, the Vikings are a bit like the Broncos for me. I want them to be at my funeral, like you just said there now, so they can let me down one more time. So a wee bit like that there. And yeah, I'm going to pick the Panthers.
Well, Nick, the only thing I want to say about the Cowboys, just quickly, right, is actually when I watched that game on Thanksgiving, it was good because I had my Bible right beside me, as I always do. And I turned to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And as you guys know very well, of course, it reads that to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. And verse 8 is the one that gets quoted all the time. They say there's a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, a time for peace. I then turned to my other side where I have my NFL Bible, the Vince Lombardi version, and I flicked to the chapter on punting. I think it was from the Gospel of Bill Belichick, actually. And from there I read that to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. There's a time to block, a time to cover, a time to kick directly to Deshaun Jackson, and a time not to kick directly to Deshaun Jackson. And most importantly, there is a time to punt and a time to fake. At 16 points down on your own 24-yard line in the middle of the fourth quarter is not the time to fake. It was the worst fake since the Colts against the Pats a few years ago. It was pathetic. It was appalling, and it sums up everything that is wrong about the Dallas Cowboys, Mike McCarthy, and life in general in 2020 under COVID.
It was like giving a 2-year-old a PlayStation controller on 4th down.
4th and 10.
And being
well,
like,
4th and 10.
Yeah.
Dear God. The NFC East can only get better today with a Bengals win. It'd be hilarious if that happens as well. It's just ridiculous, lads. Talking about wins and easy games and stuff and bad plays, the Patriots are next on this list. So we got the Cardinals at the Patriots, 6-4 Cardinals at the ever-feeling 4-6 New England Patriots at Gillette Stadium, at the previous home of Tom Brady. It's all over, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm going to ride on that for the next 10 years. Colin, I mean, not really much of a match here, is it? Obviously, Cardinals, yeah.
Um, look, uh, the Cardinals have the better team, and certainly this this year I would expect them to. But Bill Belichick is Bill Belichick. I mean, I suppose if you were to look at the way in which they failed to handle Deshaun Watson and his scrambling ability, Kyler Murray is definitely going to be a worry for them. And you add in Hopkins to that mix, even though Larry Fitz is out. The Patriots traditionally so strong on defense, 25th against the pass, 21st against the rush. What do they have offensively? At least if they had something. The Cardinals have actually been pretty good about getting to the quarterback. So Cam is not the Cam of old. I think it'll be maybe tighter than people expect, but the Cardinals I think will have too much here and go to 7-4.
Yeah, when I break it down and I'm trying to look at ways in which the Patriots come in the game, the Cards defense has given up 28 plus points for the last 4 games. Then on the other side, you look at the Patriots offense this year. It's the worst offense in 20 years in terms of average points. They're only putting up around 20 a game. So that takes that concern away. Murray, the only concern again, then another concern is Murray seems to be playing with an injury. He was touch and go all week whether he'd be playing. He is going to play. He's the only quarterback in the league to throw 2 touchdowns or more in every game. Even Mahomes hasn't done that. Mahomes didn't do it in Denver. There's something for you to take comfort in the season. But no, I'm with the Cards. I think the Cardinals will win. They've got to win to keep in touch on the wild cards. And whilst it might be a game for 3 quarters with the Patriots hanging in there, I think the Cardinals will put away in the fourth and win by 10, 13 points.
I'm muted. Can we have a bit of Atomic Kitten now, or who won that? Who won Pop Idol back in the day, Mark? Hearsay?
Oh yeah, Hearsay won the original Pop Idol, didn't they?
Pop Stars.
Pop Stars. Pop Idol would have been Gareth Gates and Will Young. Will Young won the first one of them.
Evergreen.
Might be pushing this show out to the younger generation.
You're a star, Red Darcy? I mean,
No.
are we going to go back that far? No.
Well, with Nadine Coyle, that might be an interesting.
I was born in 1985. Anyway, let's just get back on. So obviously this Patriots Cardinals game, right?
This is in Atomic Kitten. This is clearly All Saints territory because never ever have I ever felt so low. You got to get me out of this black hole. I'm living the old Persian expression, "This too shall pass," or as Tolkien put it, "Even darkness must pass." It's terrible. Here I am moaning about it. We're 4-6, and it's the worst time for a Patriots fan in 20 years. So you can dine out on it for 10 years, Mike. It's still only half the time frame of our dynasty. So I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me or for Bill Belichick or the Patriots. We've had a good time for so long. But it's not good times now. It's getting worse because Davis, our nose tackle, has just gone on IR, as has Isaiah Wynn, our oft-injured left tackle. So that could even upset our running game and our run defense. Oh, what a great time to go against a mobile quarterback who's one of the best runners in the game. Fully agree. DeAndre Hopkins, 912 yards so far this season, nearly 1,000 already, is an absolute demon. But we couldn't contain Watson. They faced Mahomes. They faced Russell Wilson, and given up points left, right, and centre to those quarterbacks. Mobile quarterbacks we weren't great with last year. With the depleted front seven, the Patriots will not contain Kyler Murray. They might change him a bit one-dimensionally. They might take Hopkins away. They might take the passing game away. But I can't see how the Pats can stop the running game, and I can't see how the Pats get enough points on the board. So, yeah, Cards for me as well.
Mark, just one more point on this game. And if the Giants do win and go top of the division this weekend at 4-7, you can take comfort from the fact that your record will be the exact same as the Giants are 4-7 after this game.
Do you know what? Not only, Brian, will I be taking comfort from that, I'll be taking comfort for the Ravens at 6-4 are still out of the playoff spots, and you'll be in a playoff spot. That would give me some sucker in life.
Well, there's going to be a team that'll be 7-4 after today, and I'm making the executive call. We're not talking about this game. The Dolphins are going to beat the Jets. No, can we please move on? Yes.
No, you
All
can't.
of us
No,
are
no, you can't.
No,
No.
because there
Move.
is there is. I think there is interesting things to talk about in this game. In that you have to look at the fact that how bad is Tua's injury? Is that a convenient injury like Joe Flacco's neck injury last year? Um, Tua got bullied last week. Okay, Tua got welcomed to the league. Tua got to realize that this is the big boys league. This is not college. And the Broncos showed up last week, and this was grizzled Vic Fangio, who showed Tua what was what. And it was great to see as a Broncos fan. I think that's why it's interesting. I mean, we now have Fitzpatrick starting. Miami are also on a streak where they have 16 games forcing a turnover against a Jets team to score 15 points. You expect Sam Darnold to come back in and have another nightmare. The other thing that I just want to highlight, because I do think it's worth, because I cannot abide the man, Greg Williams. Here's hoping they're 0-10, hopefully going to 0-11, which I imagine. He was 0-16 with the Browns as defensive coordinator. He probably is going 0-16 with the Jets. The man responsible for Bountygate. The fact that he's still in the league, the fact that the league still hires him is an absolute abomination. It should be a source of shame for the entirety of the NFL.
Dear Lord.
It is an interesting game, Michael, because for majority of the week, everybody thought it was going to be Flacco against Tua. In fact, it's going to be Sam Darnold against Fitzmagic. And the Jets are 0-10, and the last three teams to be on that record have always got the first pick. But something in the back of my head just says they're going to find a way to throw it away, and they'll end up with the second pick. And the Jags will sneak in and take Lawrence. And you can't be not talking about the game because you did it on the Bengals a few weeks ago, and there is quite a few Jets fans out there who do like this show. So we have to be generous to them. The Dolphins are going to win, and I'm more confident now with the fact that Fitzmagic is playing. He'll come in and he'll burn them up. He'll win. They'll win by 20, 30 points.
But the thing is, lads, and Brian or Mark, just before you come in, the thing is, I do want to talk about the game, but there's something really important that we need to talk about in 30 seconds. But we'll talk about it then. Mark, sorry, big game, Jets.
I'm going to be really quick, and there's two points I want to make about the Jets roster. This is the first time that their top three wide receivers are going to be healthy. So he's got Crowder, Perryman, and Mims all playing the same game. The problem for Darnold is his two starting offensive tackles are both doubtful for the game. We don't see who exactly is out at the moment, but he could be down both of them. To me, it's all about the quarterbacks. The 3 degrees. Remember their great song, "When Will I See You Again?" When are we going to see? We might see Flacco again before the end of the season. When are we going to see Tua again? That's the real story about this. Dolphins will win, but that's the thing I'm curious about.
Okay, and I appreciate that. It's good. I think the Dolphins are going to win. Before we talked on this show recorded tonight, we agreed we wouldn't talk about COVID-19 too much, and we also need to state this right now that this is being recorded to go out on Sunday. Now, Colin, the next game is the Broncos against the Saints. Obviously, me and Colin are Broncos fans. I'm not sure what you two lads have seen over the last 20 minutes, but Colin, do you want to tell everybody what's happened? Because I think this has to. We're getting to the point now. If this game goes ahead today, as it stands, with what we know right now, it's a complete farce as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So the news is that the 3 Broncos QBs have been pulled out of practice today because the league reviewed the footage of them talking to Jeff Driscoll, and who tested positive for COVID-19 and said that it was a close contact. So the Broncos have gone through practice with the coaches acting as pseudo QBs, players running routes, handoffs, but no actual ball thrown. We don't know what it means at the moment in terms of none of the other QBs have tested positive. So we're waiting to see what it will be. Again, it highlights to me though that it's so in flux. It's so easy to for a player to either contract it or to be a close contact. I think it highlights that you can't just press pause on the league here, right? I know some people suggest that, but that would be no good because it's not just going to. You got to come up with a solution. If you press pause, you have to move to a bubble.
But Colin, even if they test negative, it doesn't mean to say they're not negative. And any other situation, if you are in close contact with anybody, you're self-isolating.
But are you going to tell those players the Saints are in the air as we record this? Who's going to tell the players they don't get paid? Because that's the reality. That's what the players signed up to.
Let's be quite clear. And I'm not talking about a Broncos situation here. The Ravens game's been moved.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots had a lovely week. They had an extra week off, wasn't it? Just when they played us.
They had to use their bye week that week, so
yeah, they had to use their bye week that week. But the Broncos were sitting on the Saturday, and they lost that bye week. The whole thing's a complete joke. Like, come on, they can't play that game. Surely they can't play that game today, as it stands.
If they've made that call that they've pulled all three quarterbacks, they'll retest them. I see a world, and they're only close contacts. Because bear in mind, the league is making distinctions between people who have positive tests and close contacts. So I mentioned Matt Thielen earlier on. If he's only deemed a close contact and tests clean, they'll let him play. If he had tested positive, they'll lock him out for the couple of, I think it's the 10 days, they say. So they could, in theory, I think, and this is us talking about on the fly here, push the game by a day. Push it by 24 hours. Push it to the Monday night. Gives a bit more time. Gives an opportunity for the tests to come back clean, and then they play. Although, given the amount of crap the Broncos players said when the Patriots, including our starting QB, were tested COVID positive earlier on, I don't know, Culture Club actually, not girl group, but Karma Chameleon kind of springs to mind a little bit there, guys.
Do you know what kind of make it? Sorry, Colin.
No,
just what I find hilarious right now is at the start of training camp, there was a big kind of, not say a protest by a lot of players, but they all came out and looked for support from the league around. We want to be secure. We want to feel safe when we go in to train every day, that we're going to be free from potentially picking up COVID. And I wouldn't say it got to a stage where they weren't going to, go in and do the training camps, but they felt that the league weren't supportive enough. The league have put all these protocols in place, and then what happens when the league move a game because they feel that it isn't safe for the players on both sides to play the game? You get players like the Steelers, Eric Ebron, who's come out 3 or 4 times this season questioning the league, and Juju Schuster giving out about the Ravens situation. But yeah, last July they were saying that the league needs to get their act together in order to secure the player safety. Mm-hmm. But yeah, here we are, and it's all turning on its head because the real deal is here. If the game doesn't get played, they don't get paid. And that's fundamentally what's really wrong with these players. They want to get their wages.
Well, you could, and that's understandable. That they have to figure a way out because we can't have this in the playoffs. You can't have this. Can you imagine? This is the Super Bowl that we're talking about, and it's the Saturday before the Sunday game. I think the interesting thing as well is there's been reference. Bruce Arians said in the off season he talked about keeping at least a QB and possibly others isolated from the rest. Because of situations like this, that didn't happen. I think, given what we're seeing in the league, Michael, if you said 6 Ravens players went on the COVID list, I think they're undoubtedly going to have to revisit the protocols because this now for the next few hours before this game is played, and we're under 24 hours. No one knows. The Saints don't know what to plan for. The Broncos don't know what to plan for. Everything is completely, and this is a situation that will be completely in flux for the remainder of the 2020 season.
Well, Colin, can I just add one thing on that? There's one thing, the league gets a good kick in on many things, with good calls. Goodell gets a good kick in on many things, again, with good calls. The one thing I will say about the league this whole season is they've made decisions quickly on rescheduling games. They've been decisive about it. Okay, the Steelers, Ravens, they've had to move a couple of times now, but they've gone out and they've gone, bang, this is when it's going to be, this is the network it's going to be on, make the call, move on. And that actually has helped in some respects, have a little bit degree of certainty. But the scary thing for me on this is, I think I just saw the news recently, James Conner, the Steelers running back, has also tested positive for COVID. Connor is a cancer survivor. Connor, has, if you like, underlying medical conditions in relation to things. Like, this is where it starts becoming more than just a game and more about severity. It's why people like Marcus Cannon, who had Hodgkin's lymphoma before, who's the Patriots starting right tackle, opted out of the season. Several players who had young children opted out of the season. There does come a point where it is more important than the NFL getting their season through. And I just hope it doesn't end in a tragic situation somewhere along the line.
Sorry, one more point. And by the time people watch the show, this decision may be made, but they're quite fortunate. They could actually cut move that game to Monday night. You won't like it. It'll probably kick off at 3:20 in the morning, but it'll be a double header on the back of the Monday night game with the Seahawks and the Eagles, and they play at 3:20 in the morning because of the time difference. So, the league might quickly decide, 24 hours, give the Broncos time to fix it.
The original one was, the Patriots' original idea was to play it before the Monday night game, which I take out right now and run for the hills as a Broncos fan. Just really quickly, lads, let's say everything goes as normal and the game goes as planned as of time, one word answer, who wins? I'm going to say the Broncos.
The Saints for me. Sorry, I'll jump in. The Saints for me. The Broncos defense played well last week. Can't see them have to do it 2 games in a row. They've been inconsistent for the majority of the season, and I think the Saints will win.
Saints line is, it depends on what I don't think it'll be a normal game. It can't be after what's happened.
It won't happen.
But for me, the Broncos are in with a shot, because I do think Hill last week, he had rushing touchdowns, he had passes, but he didn't have a passing touchdown. I think the Broncos will do well against him. I think we're in with a puncher's chance. The Saints are undoubtedly favourites. Sean Payton is undefeated with backups, which is a nice stat to have. But Alvin Kamara is carrying a foot injury. They lost their left tackle. They've lost their left guard. A chance, but Saints favourites.
I love the way the boys listen to the one-word answer piece, Mike.
So, sorry. So, what's the pick then, Callum?
The Saints are the pick.
So, got very, very short, Mike. The Broncos are 9-2 all time against the Saints. Unfortunately, that's moving to 9-3. Saints will win this.
Yes, Brian's right in what he's saying in regards. I'm just going to move on. So Brian's right in what he's saying. The game will, the whole thing will be decided by the time this goes out. It's only 3 p.m. in Denver right now. The Saints are in the air as we speak. The NFL has got a serious problem. The Broncos at the minute have not got a quarterback. The Ravens have multiple players. There's another couple of teams that have over 5 players. They can't do a bubble like the NBA. They're in a serious situation. 6 weeks ago, they should have put all the players in a hotel at their airports. They didn't do it. They're now in a situation where we're going to have to look at week 18 and week 19. And that's great for us because we can do this every week until football's over. So moving on from that game, we've got the 49ers and the Rams at 9:05 tonight as well. That game is in LA. Colin, what's your thoughts on this game?
I think the Rams did incredibly well on Monday. We'll can talk a bit more about the issue with the Bucs, but Sean McVay dialed up a really good, plan in terms of how to attack them. You had Kupp and Woods just went off. This will be fascinating, right? Because you got Kyle Shanahan, who has beaten, I think, the Rams in the last 3, going up against McVay. 49ers, you wouldn't say they're healthy, but they're getting healthier. So I expect it to be close, but I think the Rams defense, being as good as it is, will carry them and they go 8-3.
Yeah, we touched on it a few weeks ago around teams having, the lady look against other teams in terms of, for example, the Rams always seem to beat the Seahawks, and more recently the 49ers seem to beat the Rams, but with the injuries in which the 49ers put together, I don't see it. I think the Rams are starting to move now, in a very nice manner in terms of going towards winning that division, coming off 2 really good wins against the Seahawks and last week against the Bucs, and to the point of the defense, they're now number 1 in the league in terms of the average points given up. They're just going to be too strong and at home. So no, it's the Rams for me.
Yeah, I was thinking when it comes to the 49ers, like Survivor by Destiny's Child, it kind of seems blasé now. We've just been talking about COVID, but how many players do they still have standing? the defenses have ravaged them. The injuries have ravaged them, particularly on defense. And yeah, like Colin, like what Woods and Cup did last week really seemed like the Rams were getting their mojo back, starting to motor. Equally, though, are the 49ers a bogey team for them? Yeah, they are, but I just see the Rams having too much. Aaron Donald, they'll avenge their Week 6 loss to this same team because it's not the same team they're playing. Rams to win it.
Who has two thumbs and picked the Rams to win last week in Monday Night Football? Michael McQuaid. I did indeed. The Rams are going to win this game. They're on the up. Love Cooper Kupp. Love Jared Goff. And this defense is a sleeper. Could be the Rams, could be the Bills and the Super Bowl boys, but I have the Rams to win by 7 to 10 points today. Can we really quickly look at the Sunday Night Football game before we look at the big game of the night? The Bears going up against the Packers in Lambeau Field. I mean, lads, just quick as you can, I'm going to look at the big game properly. I've got the Packers winning this. I think they'll be too good for the Bears. Aaron Jones to have a day. 3 touchdown runs.
The Bears are 32nd in rushing, 32nd on third downs, 31st in the red zone, and they're bringing Mitch Trubisky back in. The Packers are winning this. It doesn't matter how good the Bears defense are, the Packers are winning this.
The Bears defense might be good, but in fairness to the Packers offensive line, they've only given 1 sack per game in the last 9 games. Their offense, the Packers offense is averaging 20 points a game, and they're going up against, as Colin alludes, a very weak Bears offense. Look, Mitch Trubisky's going to play, and he's definitely not the answer. No, I think this is, well, these games are normally close. I can't see it. I think the Packers will blow them out.
I found myself looking up who is the third string quarterback for the Bears, just in case, because Foles isn't going to play Trubisky, so we might get a touch of Wicklow because it's a gentleman by the name of Tyler Bray. So, guys, third down, the Bears defense is pretty awesome. They're only allowing 33% of third down conversions. But there was a girl group in the late 90s called Dream, and they had a song called He Loves You Not. And He Loves You Not is definitely how Rodgers and Brett Favre before him feel about the Chicago Bears. 41-15 combined record. That moves out to 42-15. Packers to win this at a canter.
Bring back the Dream chocolate bar, boys, and bring back a Mars Delight as well. Don't know if you boys had that in the South, but Mars Delight. Look, really quickly, lads. That's Sunday Night Football, but the big game is the washed up Tom Brady. I'm joking. At home to Patrick Aloysius Mahomes or Mahomes in some counties to the west of Ireland. Let's be quite frank here, lads. Now, you know what? Okay, I'll give my pick at the end. Colin, who do you have for this? Well, why is everybody talking? I know it's going to be a Super Bowl. Who have we got?
It's a huge game. It's an enormous game for the Bucs. They've lost 2 of the last 4. They just about beat the Giants, and we talked about that at the time. That could have been reviewed. So they're not playing well. I really think there's been a lot of talk this week about Brady in the deep ball. The lack of pass catching backs is a big problem for Brady. That got him out of jail so many times up in New England in the last couple of years in particular. They can still go off. I mean, look, when you have Gronk and you can put a ball up there, probably he's not the Gronk of old, but still, 7.5 times out of 10, he's going to come down with it. But their defense just got done, and they're trying to blitz, but then they're getting done in the secondary. You're going against Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs are winning this. They go 10-1.
Everything points to a Chiefs win. But for some reason, I have this niggling feeling that it's more so the Bucs defense is going to show up because they were hosed by Jared Goff. Where I know Michael's high on Jared Goff, but he isn't. I'm not convinced by Jared Goff, and they have to rebound. And they did rebound when they were under pressure against the Packers at home earlier on the season, which you're seeing a similar type of game because everybody expected that the Packers would go in and they put up 20 points on that defense, and they didn't. And I say the same thing. I think they'll hold Mahomes in check. So I put it down to the Bucs defense more so than Brady having a good game. An interesting footnote: Brady's 4-0 when he's played defending champions, and I'm going to go with the Bucs to win. He'll be 5-0 by the time this game's over.
Yeah, the Pointer Sisters saying, "I'm so excited and I just can't hide it." This is an exciting game featuring one of the greats and one of the soon-to-be greats. I described it to a friend of mine. This is the game between the history maker and the history shaker, because Mahomes is going to shake up all the records, starting with all the fastest starts of the year. A couple of key things. The Chiefs' defense is not very good. They are the worst red zone D in the NFL. Um, they can be taken advantage of, as you've seen with Derek Carr and the Raiders in two games this season. But the talent they have on offense, not just Mahomes. I mean, Travis Kelce is, I think, the fourth highest yardage gatherer for receiving yards. Like, he's more yards than Will Fuller, than Devontae Adams, than DK Metcalf. That is obscene when you then add on Hill and all the other various outlets that they have, especially you're talking about Brady not having pass catching backs. Pat Mahomes doesn't have that same trouble and problem. Brady's struggles with deep ball are well documented. Last 22 throws more than 20 yards downfield have not been completed. The worst stretch for any quarterback since 2017. I called out Lamar Jackson on his deep ball last week. Got to be fair, got to call out Tom Brady. Ultimately, for me, I think back to the epic poem Beowulf, which was before 1000 AD, just between 700 and 1000 AD. In that Beowulf, early on, comes to the aid of the King of Danes. He slews the monster Grendel. Then he slews Grendel's mother, who comes to avenge him. And 50 years later, after a long and fruitful life, he defeats a dragon, but he's mortally wounded and ultimately ends up dying. That's Brady's career. He slew the dragons at the start of his career. He went on for 50 years. Sorry, slew the monsters at the beginning, went on 50 years. But Pat Mahomes is the dragon. And he beat him. He beat him in 2018 twice, and we got our last Super Bowl. But I fear Brady is mortally wounded, and he will not be Pat Mahomes again, nor will he ever beat him again. Mahomes and the Chiefs will win it.
Lads, lads, lads. Well, first off, Sky Sports really putting Mahomes and Brady on again. They're on all the time. I mean, why is this game on? Yeah, I had to say it. Had to say it. A nice game, and a very, very nice game, especially for a neutral, because I'm really a neutral as a Broncos fan watching this. This is like watching. Seriously, like, it's awful. I don't think Brady's that washed up, and I think, and Colin sort of alluded, this is a huge game for Tampa Bay. A huge game. At the start of the season, everybody was talking about whenever they brought Gronk back, oh, this is going to be unreal. They're going to go 10-0. They're going to go 16, like whatever. They haven't done it. And of course, I picked them to lose last Monday night, and they did. And Brady didn't shake Goff's hand. Beautiful to watch. Beautiful to watch. But tonight, Mahomes won't shake Brady's hand because Brady is going to go out tonight and remind people, including myself, that he's not washed up. When guys like Peyton Manning went out in their late parts of their career, when they got bad, they got bad. They got bad. And I love Peyton, but Tom is not there yet. I would expect Mike Evans to have a day today. Don't get me wrong. Mahomes has all the talent. You're talking about Travis Kelce, you're talking about Edward Hilaire as well. And that's to name a few. But the reality is, this is all in for the Bucks have to win this game. If they want to stay up in the NFC, they need to win this game tonight. It's a huge game, and I think that will get them over the line. I have the Bucks winning by the field goal in what could be a classic game tonight. No doubt about it. Could be 48-45. Do you remember that game? Was it last season? The Rams and who was it? The Rams and who?
Rams Chiefs, yeah.
On Monday Night Football, and we were all sleeping, and we missed the greatest game of the decade.
That was fortunately I was actually stateside watching it. I was because it was a super late one. One thing just to build on what Mark said, the interesting thing for me was the Rams gave Brady back the ball on Monday. 2-minute drill. How many times have we seen it before? Couldn't do it. Not only couldn't do it, threw an awful interception. It's put up or shut up time for Tom.
Oh, I think this is it.
Agreed, but I mean, the one thing I'll say is, remember early in their careers between Brady and Manning, it was always, well, Brady has the rings, but Manning has the stats. Actually, guys, Brady now has both. He's the thrown for more touchdowns than any other player. He's overtaken Breeze again. So whatever he does, he could lose the rest of the games. He could crash out and lose 16 games next season. He's still the greatest of all time. He still has more wins, if you take away the losses and you just do his win-loss differential, than everyone other than Manning and Favre, I believe. Maybe Breeze is there or thereabouts. So, don't worry, I'm not getting down on him, but he's still going to lose tonight to Patrick Mahomes, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, John. And thank you very much Mark, for your lovely musical metaphors this evening as well. Just, folks, as you can see, and we've said it a few times in the show today, we are recording this because we need to edit it and make it look good, but the reality is we can't hide it much longer. I think the NFL has been like, you ever see Homer when he tidies a house, puts everyone under the carpet and he pushes it down to make sure? The NFL now are unfortunately getting to the point where COVID is becoming an issue, and we have no idea if the Broncos and the Saints game is going to play today at 9 o'clock. We have no idea. But it looks, gentlemen, like we are going to have a very packed Monday Night Football show on Monday. Could be a lovely pre-game for the Broncos. I'd be so happy. I'd put that game on early. It'd be lovely. But lads, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you today. Really appreciate it, and have a nice weekend, lads. And everybody watching, enjoy the games today.